if we go down and look at the data, the data doesn't really support, and these were healthy people, which healthy in the research doesn't really mean healthy as we would describe it, but let's assume they were healthy, okay, absent chronic disease and that sort of thing. Well, then this literature doesn't support taking the 1,000. You know, if we look at all these tables, the 500 is the light gray, the 1,000 is the, you know, the cross-hatched one. And so the 500, as far as raising whole blood levels, the 500 did better, okay? Raising red blood cell levels, the 1,000 did better. But, you know, if you look at the 2-week mark, they're about the same, okay? If we go to changes in plasma, the 500 did much better. Changes in your white blood cells, the 500 did better, okay? So then if we look at reducing oxidative stress, there's 2 ways to look at it. There's glutathione recycling, where the 1,000 did better for that, but the decrease in actual oxidative stress marker, or free radical marker here, the 8-isoprostane, the 500 did better. And then promoting optimal lymphocyte proliferation, the 1,000 was better at that, but raising your natural killer cells, the 500 was better. So this is a small study. They're moving forward with doing a larger group of people and really narrowing these numbers in more, but you know, 500 appears to be plenty for the general healthy population, and that'll, you know, you'll get double the life out of the product if you're taking 1 dose instead of 2 a day. And I've heard from other sources that your body's only going to absorb 500 at a time. So if you were going to do the 1,000, you want to do 500 a.m., 500 p.m., not 1,000 all at once.
That was my question. So it's like you're flooding your engine. It's just too much. You just can't absorb it.
Yeah, there's some sort of you know, saturation point, and so it'd be essentially you're wasting it, right? And,
right.
And that's not, you know, we don't want to waste anything, but especially this, right? So you'd want to do morning and evening doses.
So Dr. Patel's is topical.
Yep.
So how does the body take glutathione through the skin topically, as opposed to when you take NAC or glutathione by capsule? I mean, how, I don't know, explain that to me.
Yeah, so if you take a capsular glutathione,
right,
that's going to the gut and being broken down, and really what's happening is it's going to break the glutathione down into glutamine, glycine, and cysteine, and then it has to be recombined into glutathione and sent, you know, wherever it's going. And that's assuming, you know, there's, back in the day, there were studies saying oral glutathione is useless because it doesn't raise systemic levels, because we studied healthy adults. But, you know, your average healthy adult has GI issues, right? So was it not really impacting the system, or did those healthy adults have GI issues where it's being used up at the GI and never gets to go to the system, right? Because you've got intestinal permeability or dysbiosis or ulcers or polyps or, you know, whatever. So the oral has to be broken down, recombined, and sent somewhere, assuming you didn't use it all. That's oral capsule. The oral liposomal, you know, I have you take it, hold it in your mouth at least 30 seconds. Why? Liposomes are fat molecules that the glutathione is stored inside, and the liposome is a fat molecule. As you're holding it in your mouth, it's jumping in your bloodstream and your oral mucosa and hitting the system right away, versus having to go to the GI, be broken down, reassembled, and sent back. So the liposomal can jump into the bloodstream right where it's at, whether we're putting it on topically or holding it in our mouth for some time. And so when you apply it topically, that's why, and you may have seen this with other lotions, they'll say, you know, put it in your elbow pit or behind your knees or on your abdomen, because those are highly vascular areas where, you know, it can be absorbed better versus putting it on your hairy forearm or, you know, some other less vascular spot.
okay.
You know, bottom of the feet is good as well. but most people put socks on and go walk around. So elbow pits, knee, backs of your knees and abdomen are the top three. If you have thyroid issues, you know, right over the thyroid on the neck would be a good one as well. Any other questions or comments on
So
this?
everything from this study had to do with it increased over several weeks, your levels.
Yep. So in some cases it was the first week. It depends on what we were looking at. So it was a 4-week study. So it all happened relatively fast. But so like the peak in the whole blood was at 2 weeks. The peak in the red blood cell was at 2 weeks. Basically for all so the peak in the plasma, the peak in the white blood cell was at 2 weeks. You could argue 2 to 4 weeks for the 500 group here. But the reduction in, or the improvement in glutathione recycling occurred in the first week, especially in the 1,000 group. The peak free radical or antioxidant effect, at least on isoprostane, was at 2 weeks. You know, the peak lymphocyte proliferation was the first week with the 500 group, the second week with the 1,000 group. The peak natural killer cell was for both of them at the 2-week mark. So it depends on what we're measuring, but essentially for almost all of them by 2 weeks, you're getting there.